Hello, everybody. We're here. We're here to work on the swallowtail jig, but I just wanted to have a little fun first. There, let's see where it is. There we go. All right, so we've dated this lesson. You know this is happening at some point in 2020. At least we hope. We hope that it's only 2020. And I'm also dating it with my COVID haircut, i.e., no haircut for quite a while now. You're paying attention, I'm sure, so you know that we're here to work on the swallowtail jig. And in particular, we're going to focus on breathing. But before we get into the detail, I'm just going to play through the tune a couple of times. As written here isn't exactly what I have in my head, so I might veer off, but I'm going to try to play what's written here, keeping in mind that reading and making music at the same time is really hard to do, which is why just having this music in your head is really where you want to go. So you want to get yourself off the page as soon as you can, right? But on the other hand, it's I spent a lot of time doing this when I was just getting into this music, writing things out very carefully, noting where a player would breathe in a tune, and then practicing exactly where that person was breathing as a way to copy a master. Well, in this case, you're copying me. I am not going to call myself a master of this by any stretch, but I am farther down the road than you are, presumably. So off we go. We'll just play through the tune twice just to kind of get warmed up at a gentle pace. All right. If you were paying attention, I know you were, you're going, whoa, wait a minute. There's some notes in there and some phrases that we didn't go through in the workshop. And that's because they're tiny little details and they're at the ends of things. And we're going to talk about that near the end of the lesson. So we'll get back to that. What I want to focus on right now is breathing. If you look up, you'll see the little B's that I've written in there. That is where you might take a breath. Okay. So in that first line, the third bar, it's A, D, I'm sorry, F sharp, D, D, A, D, D. Now you might, if you needed a breath, you'd just practice that. Again, I call that a hop breath. And if you look down in the next line, first bar, you've got the G, E, E. And you come to the end with that first repeat. There's one of those little details that was not in the lesson that we went over, and it's not in the written music from the Tin Whistle book. But these little details matter more at the end. You can leave that out. Take a breath there. That's why I've got that B. So it'd be, and then go back to the A part. So I'll do. So that's the A part, breathing in the places where I marked that where you might breathe. Notice I say might, I don't say do. You don't want to breathe in exactly the same spot every time. Some of it is because you don't need a breath. But some of it is because doing it exactly the same way is boring to the ear. One of the things that makes this music work is tiny little changes to a tune that fool the ear. You set up an expectation. Someone's listening to the tune and they hear this very simple da 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 da, and then you introduce a tiny little change like da 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 beetle da ba ba da 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 that da 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 bum ba da da da, introduces this little whoa movement, and it kind of keeps the tune up in the air and just keeps the ear a little off. And then at the end of that phrase, that little run up, if you do that once in a while instead of every time, again, it just kind of, you set up an expectation with someone's ear of what they expect to hear, and then this tiny little change, they don't know exactly what it was, but it just makes the tune, it adds charm. Okay, so we'll look at the B part. In the B part of the tune, we're doing something a little bit different. Instead of leaving an entire note out, we're taking a note, a whole note in this case, and we're cutting it in half. So this is a note that in this case, it's twice as long as the typical note in a jig. So the typical note is da 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 da, where each of those is a note. And here we could go da 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 da. We've got a longer note, so we're just cutting it in half. And again, that might seem kind of funny because you think, gee, the note belongs there. It's like taking half of a brick out of a house. If you take out the wrong note, it's like taking half a brick out and things start to fall down. But in this case, it actually can become part of the tune. So I'll play through the B part now. Okay, so I pretty much followed the music and pretty much took a breath wherever one was noted. Just to kind of give you those examples so that we'll look at the first bar, B part. Okay. So I'm taking in the first note, I'm taking the E. And in the third bar, I'm taking the D and just playing the note and using the extra time there. I'm only playing part of the note and I'm taking a breath. And listen to I'll play it through once, that first 4 bars of the B part without breathing. And then we'll come back and we'll play it with the breath and just notice that it sounds different. So there it is without breathing. And now I'll take the breaths. It's breaking it up. In this case, a breath is being used the way you might use a comma or a semicolon, or in some cases, perhaps even a period, where you're dividing up phrasing. And it's a way of making a statement and then kind of responding to it. In some cases, it's important to maybe actually think about that. But mostly, you don't think about the way you're talking when you talk, right? You don't think about, I'm going to put a pause there for emphasis. You just do it. And that's the way music works. Although, now to contradict myself, if you're doing this, if you're writing poetry, if you're working on a theatrical presentation, if you are working on a speech, you might in fact think about where you want to put that pause and where you want to put that. So when you're arranging music, sometimes you'll actually think, I should take a breath there. What I'm going to encourage you to do with this tune right now is do that. Decide where you want to breathe and then practice that. And don't breathe in the same place every single time through the tune. Use that as an ornament. Use that as a way to just make the tune a little bit different. Now, I want to talk about the notes that are in here that were not in the version that we worked on during the workshop. I thought about it and thought, yeah, it's kind of complicated to throw some notes at you that weren't in that simpler version. But you can handle it. I know you can. And also, if you find this complicated, just go back to the simple version, focus on that. I mean, really important when you're learning music to focus on whatever it is you're ready to learn. If you're finding yourself overwhelmed and it's like, and you're not making progress. And when I say not making progress, you should be better after 5 minutes of whatever it is you're focusing on. And if you're not better, measurably better after 5 minutes, then you should consider focusing on perhaps a smaller piece. For example, instead of playing the whole tune, you might just work on breathing in a particular spot. I'm going to pick the second line, the third bar. And then I'm going to connect that. I've got that. It seems to be working. So I'm going to play the previous bar and the bar after it so that I'm taking that little piece I just worked on and connecting it. So again. So if the extra notes that I'm talking about are just too much, forget it and go back to the much simpler version, and then you deal with that later. Okay. But in the meantime, I want you to notice second line. This is the first ending, which goes the way we were playing it. That's all you did, right? You would play this and just go straight back to the beginning of the tune. And here we've introduced a little, and you notice the extra bars there. So that's something that you can play. You'll notice I also have a B there for breath. So you now have 3 different ways to go from the first repeat of the B part back to the second repeat. I'm sorry, first repeat of the A part back to the second repeat of the A part. You've got 3 different ways to do it. You can play it straight through. Just straight through. Hold that E all the way through the time and then right back. You can also take a breath there. And if you play the notes that are written here, that quick little da-dum, you go. So you've already got 3 different ways to get back to the beginning of the tune. Now take a look at the second ending in part A. You've got that same, but then there's an A, and it's just this little step up. You don't have to use it. You could play exactly what we were playing before. You don't have to use the A. You could breathe there as well, or you can use the A. So that's without breathing. You could take a breath there. I didn't breathe, sorry. I just left a gap, or you can use the A. I really like the A. It just has this whoosh kind of feeling. And when you go from one part of a tune to another, there should be a whoosh. Now, sometimes a gap there for breathing provides that moment. It's like a breath, and off you go. Now, if you look at the ending of the tune, the second ending of the B part, there's a completely different ending. That last bar goes, instead of going, it goes, so that phrase, it is actually also used in the first ending. So now let's go back, look at the first ending of the B part. So, again, or the second ending of the B part. They're tiny little details using that F sharp to get back to the G. That you can slide that if you want it. So these are just the little details. Steve asked, like, what makes the tune Irish? It's kind of like what makes a suit fit. To some extent, you have to cut it and sew it back together. And these are the tiny little ways to do that. Is right at the connecting places where things come together. You can leave a pause. You can alter the note. You can have a little step up, a little run that gets you back up into the tune. All right, let's just play through the tune again, just so you have a chance to play along. All right, here we go. Reminding myself, nice and slow, it's a lesson. Very good. I hope you have. I hope you have as much fun with that as I did putting it together. Keep playing. Where's the off button? It must be somewhere.